will be done under the user interface. And under this category we are having some rules like, so user interface is divided into different parts. So one of the rule is section, Flowaction and harness. So these are the three main rules which are used in the user interface category. So first of all we'll discuss each and every rule. Coming to the section, the main designing, so overall designing of the forms and everything will be done in the section rule. The mainly section is used for main designing. So normally what are the properties we have created in the data model category? We have to drag and drop the properties into the section. Just drag and drop the properties into section, and this section contains, so if you want to drag the properties into this section category, it contains different types of, a section contains different types of layouts. So normally section contains different types of layouts. So these layouts are used for using, so drag and dropping the properties into the section, and the different types of layouts are smart layout, freeform layout, and repeating layout. These are the three types of layouts available under the user interface category. So coming to the smart layout, so what in the smart layout we can only use manual properties. So yesterday we have categorized the properties into two types, manual properties and embedded properties. In the smart layout we can only use the manual properties, and here contains, smart layout contains predefined templates. Smart layout contains predefined templates. So like three types of templates are available here: single, double and triple. So these are the three different types of templates available under smart layout. So single means, so we can only use in a single row we can use single property. Double means in a single row we can use two properties, in the left side we can use and in the right side we can use. Triple means in a single row we can use left side, middle and right side. So like this. So contains, smart layout contains these predefined templates. Based on the requirement we can select the required template, and whenever we create a new section, automatically by default the default layout we will get is smart layout with double template. See, whenever we open a new section page, automatically the default layout it comes is double template. So later if you want to change the template, we can change from the layout category. So this is about the smart layout. So we can only use the manual properties, we cannot use embedded properties in the smart layout. And another type is freeform. In the freeform layout in the freeform layout okay, so this is about the smart layout. In the freeform layout, hello Sujit, today I am discussing about the user interface. Once again I am just reviewing that thing whatever I taught. Hi Sujit, today I am started the user interface. So once again I am just giving the overview of this. So the main purpose of this user interface is for designing of the forms. Under this category we are having three rules. One is section, Flowaction and harness rule. So coming to the section rule, so it is the main designing will be done in this rule, in this section. So what are the properties we have created? So just we will drag and drop those properties into this page. So what are the properties we created? Just we have to select the property name and drag and drop here. And for dragging and dropping these properties, it contains different types of layouts. So the three types of layouts we have here. One is smart layout. So this smart layout we can only use manual properties, and it contains predefined templates. Smart layout contains predefined templates. So the three types of templates are single, double and triple. In practical I will explain so how to use this single, double and triple. So next is freeform layout. So freeform layout means here also we can only use manual properties. In freeform also we will only use the manual properties. And the difference between the smart and freeform is, in smart layout we are having predefined templates, right? Here we can create our own user defined. In freeform we can create our own user defined template. Means, so normally see these layouts will be in the form of rows and columns. So normally what are the layouts we have? All the layouts will be in the form of rows and columns. So here single means normally we will get in a single row we will get single column. Double means in a single row we will get two columns. In a single row, triple means we will get three columns. But in free form, how many rows we want and how many columns we want, we can manually adjust the length and breadth of rows and columns here. Means we can create our own user defined template in the free form layout. So any type of template we can create. But in smart layout there is a limitation. We have to compulsory use the predefined only. But in free form, whatever the any type of layout we can create using the freeform layout. So that is about freeform. So only both smart and freeform is used for the manual properties only. And there is another layout is repeating layout. Here we can use embedded properties. In the repeating layout we can use embedded properties. So in the embedded properties again in the repeating we are having some types. So layout types are there in the repeating layout. There are row repeat, column repeat, tree, grid, tab. So like this we used to have some types under the repeating layout. Based on the requirement we can select the type of the layout. So most probably you will use repeating row or repeating column. And here in the repeating layout we can dynamically add rows or columns at runtime. We can dynamically add rows or columns at runtime. So that is one of the main advantage. Okay, in practical I will show you how to use the properties in these three layouts. Okay, once the section is designed, so once the properties are used in the section, it will only show the preview of the page. So section will show only the preview of your page. So we cannot directly submit the values in that page and we cannot save to the database. So once the design of the section is done, it will only show the preview of the page. So section is only for preview purpose. So later if you want to, so how to again we have to add in the, so process means, so later for every section rule we have to create a Flowaction rule. So this is also user interface rule only. So after the section creation the next thing is Flowaction. So why we have to create a Flowaction means, so in order to perform some further actions, suppose once after designing the section, if you want to later perform some more actions for that page, we have to do in the Flowaction page. So like adding methods or adding validations. So for doing these things, we will create a Flowaction for every section. So means, so Flowaction is also a user interface rule where we will drag the section into the Flowaction. So means the Flowaction page is just a reference. So normally it is a copy of a section page. Flowaction is nothing but a copy of a section, is just a reference of the section. So whatever the page we have in the section, same page we will drag and drop into the Flowaction page, and later we will perform some further actions like adding validations and some activities like methods we will do. So for this, for every section whatever we create, so suppose you are creating 10 pages, like 10 sections you are creating, we have to add 10 Flowactions. So means for every section, so for each section we have to create a separate Flowaction. So for a single section we cannot create multiple Flowactions. For each section, so for one section one Flowaction we have to create. So that one I will show you practical. Okay, first of all, so section is created under the user interface. It comes under the user interface category. Okay, right click on class, new, user interface, section. Give any name. Click on create option. This will be the section page where we have to, so there are so many options will be there here. So this is the default layout. See, whenever we open a new section, so by default we will get smart layout with double template. So later if we want to change the layout, we can change from the layout category. So there is one category called, so one drop down is there, that is layout drop down, where we can change the, so suppose if you don't want to do this layout, we can change the, so we can add another layout here. Okay. So if you want to change the layout here, we can change the layout option here. Actually my throat is not well, so maybe okay. So this is the smart layout. It comes with the, so default, so when we open a new section, this is the default layout. So that is smart layout with double template. See, double template means in the left side we can add that property, in the right side also, means in a single row we can add two properties, left side and right side. So I will show you how to use the properties in a smart layout first. See, if you want to drag and drop the properties into the section, just click on the dot symbol. Click on the dot symbol and drag and release to the field position. We have to release the property to the field position. In the label we will get the name, in the field we will get the text box. See, if you want to add a rows, so there is one option here in the top, insert row before and insert row after. Insert row before means, so before that property it will add one row. After means after the property, sorry, we have to select here. After the property it will add the row. If you want to delete any row, select on any of that row and click on delete option. Like this we can add the rows in the layout and select any other property, drag and drop here. We can also add in the right side also, no problem. See, what are the control is set at the time of property creation. For that property, what are the control we have given. Based on that control, the property will display in this particular section. So if we have given drop down means it will display as a drop down. Calendar means calendar. Like this. So we can add the properties in the layout. So this is how we will use the smart layout. I will create one more section and I will show you how to use another different layout in the same section. So after dragging all the properties, save the section. Now I will use a different layout. Instead of smart layout, I will use freeform layout. Click on new tab. Already we are in the section page. Enter any name. Suppose if you don't want to use the default layout, you can delete later. So first of all, add a layout from the layout option. So here we have an option called layout. See, here we have some other options with there. Dynamic container. We will discuss later regarding this. First of all, we are discussing about the layout. So if you want to if you want to select a different type of layout apart from the smart layout, so there is a layout here, right? We have to drag and drop here. After selecting that layout option, we have to drag that layout and we have to release here. So then it will open a pop-up. Select any other type. So here template means the smart layout, single, double and triple. So these are all predefined templates. So if you want a smart layout using single or triple, we can select here, or else freeform. So in the freeform, how many rows and how many columns we require, we can manually add here. So there is an option to add manually. How many rows and how many columns require, we can manually enter here and click on OK option. So it will display the layout. If you want to delete the previous layout, just select the total layout. So if you want to select the total layout means outside the layout, click outside the layout tab, it will select the total layout. Then click on this red button, so delete row. It will automatically delete the total layout. So once again I will show you how to add the layout. For example, if you delete this freeform layout also means, again by default it will display smart layout. Once again I will show. If you want to add a layout, go to the layout category and see, if you click on this layout means it will not select the layout option. So what we have to do is we have to select that one and drag, and so wherever, suppose after this layout if we want to add the layout, so the orange line you will get, then release the layout. You will get a pop-up box. Select the type of layout, click on OK. Then you can release the previous layout, delete the previous layout. Same way here also we can drag the properties in the first row, second column. We have to drag the property, or in the second row, second column. If you want to give some space before, just leave the first row. Free form, we can drag the properties in this way. Suppose if you want to add a embedded properties, so for example, see, these are embedded properties under this list name, right? EMP details list. Suppose if you are using drag these properties here, so it is showing some pop-up message, your property is not part of the class. So actually it is a part of a data table class. So these properties are part of the data table class. So we cannot add these properties in this freeform or smart layout. So for that there is a separate layout, is a repeating layout. So in that layout we can add those embedded properties. In the normal layout, so freeform or smart layout, we cannot add embedded properties. That one also we will see. Okay, just save the section. See, for every section now we have added two sections, right? Section 1 and section 2. For these two sections we have to create a Flowaction page. So for these two sections, so for every section, whenever we create a section, automatically after the section we have to add a Flowaction page. So for that, same, go to user interface. Under that we have an option called Flowaction. Give any name and click on create option. Here the option will be, when you open the Flowaction page, the option here is drag section here. The only option you get is drag section here. So select your section. See here under the, when you expand the user interface, will have the section names. Just select the how we are selecting the property and dragging into the section. Similarly, select the section and release. So exactly where the message it is showing, we have to release there. So see here, this Flowaction, so it is a section reference. So the Flowaction is nothing but a reference of the section. Same thing, whatever we have in the section page, same thing we will get in the Flowaction also. And in this page what we will do is there is a separate tabs here, validation tab. Suppose if you want to add any validations for these properties in this layout, we can add in the using the validation tab. And there is one more tab called action tab. So here there is activity. So if you want to add any logical operations, we can add using this action tab. So the main purpose of this Flowaction is to add further logic, and if you want to add any validations, we are going to add in the Flowaction page. So those things are not possible in the section. Section is only for the design, and later if you want to perform further actions, we can do it in the Flowaction page. And this Flowaction is also only for the preview purpose. So how the section will show the preview. Similarly, Flowaction also will only show the preview of the page. So once the Flowaction is created and saved, then finally for calling this Flowaction, so the sequence will be like this. So we are creating data tables, right? Then we are adding properties, then we are creating a section. So these properties we are using in the section, and then this section we are calling in the Flowaction, and then finally the Flowaction will be called in the flow diagram. So that is the next topic. So normally here in Pega, so the architecture will be designed in the using the flow diagrams. So normally for each and every rule, suppose if you want to add a Flowaction, so there is a separate shape will be there. So that shape is called assignment shape. We will discuss in the next session. So finally, what are the Flowactions we have created? So for each and every Flowaction, we have to take one assignment shape and we have to add in the architecture. So that one we'll see in the next session. So after creating the Flowaction, so next we have to call that in the flow diagram, so architecture diagram. That one we'll see in the next session. And one more thing is, see in the Flowaction we will not do anything. So just we will drag and drop in the the section in the Flowaction. Suppose in the future, suppose if you want to modify this page, if you want to do any modifications to this page, so regarding the properties, not regarding the validations or action, in the layout, if you want to perform any modifications to this page, suppose if you want to remove any properties and if you want to add any new features, new properties, then all the modifications will be done in the section only. See, in the Flowaction page we will not do any modifications. No modifications will be done in the Flowaction page. So all the modifications, means adding properties or removing properties, will be done only in the section. We will not do any modifications in the Flowaction page. Just remember that point. Okay, similarly I will add a, okay, save this Flowaction. For this another section also I will add the Flowaction page. So there is one more way also we can do, adding the Flowaction in, adding the section into the Flowaction. So one way, just we will select the section and we will drag and drop into the Flowaction, right? So instead of doing that, so there is one more process. So go to the layout tab, there is an option called section option is there. Select this option and drag and drop here. Then it will open a pop-up. In the purpose drop down, it will display all the section names. When you click on the down arrow, it will display all the section names. You can select your section name and click on OK option. So like this also. So anyway, either you can directly select the section name and just drag it into the this page, or else go to the layout tab, drag the section and it will open a pop-up and select your section rule name. So anyway we can do that. Save the Flowaction. So in the coming sessions we will work on validations and the how to call the methods in the Flowaction page. So there is some time for that. And okay, and there is another type of layout, repeating layout. So how to use the embedded properties in a repeating layout. Okay, create one more section. See, normally don't worry, in a single section we can use different layouts. So means within the same section we can use smart layout, we can use freeform, and also we can use repeating layout. A section can contain multiple layouts. So just I am showing you separately. So in the coming sessions we will work on it. So in a same section we can use all the types of layouts, but instead of confusing, I am creating separate layouts here. So to select the repeating layout, go to the layout tab, drag and drop here, select repeating. In the drop down, see here, these are the different types of repeating layouts available: row, column, tab, grid, tree and tree grid. So select, first of all I am selecting repeating. So select row option, click on OK. Now I will delete the previous default layout. Select that layout and click on delete option, and then see here. So first of all, we cannot directly add the properties in this layout. So even embedded properties also, if you directly add into the layout option, here also it will show a message like this, because see some message it is showing here, row repeat lister group is unspecified. Actually these are the properties, so these properties are under this UHG-hyphen application class. These properties are under the list name called EMP details. So actually these properties are under the list name EMP details. So if you want to add these properties, first of all we have to add the list name. So the list name is EMP details. So for that, so wherever the message is showing, beside that there is one icon is there, so like glass icon, or we can say search icon. So click on that icon. So that is the properties of this layout. If we click on this icon, it will open a new page, a new pop-up. Here we'll get an option called list or group option. In the drop down we need to add the, so if we click on the down arrow, you'll get a list name. EMP details is our list name. Select that one and then click on close. So row repeat, now it is a EMP details is a class, part of class EMP details, means this EMP details is a part of this data table class. Yesterday we have created a table, and from the table we have inherited the property names. So EMP details is a part of the class EMP details. Now we can drag the properties under this list name. See, if we are using the properties in the repeating row layout, if you want to drag the properties into the repeating row layout, so the properties will come side by side, means in the here we'll get the property name, here we'll get the label, and then the next property name comes here, label comes here, means so when dragging these properties in the first column, second row, we have to drag the property. So selected property name. Repeating row means the properties will get side by side. Then another property will be added here in the second column, second row. Later if you want to add one more column, means in the top there is option called insert column before, insert column after, and delete column. So we have to insert a column after this column. So click on insert column. So like this, based on the requirement how many columns we need, we can add the columns and drag the property. In this way we will add the properties in the repeating row. See here there is a delete symbol and a plus symbol is there. So the plus symbol is for dynamically adding the rows at runtime. So the main purpose of this repeating is, so we used to get the data, fetch the data from the database dynamically, and later, for example, if you want to further add any row, we can use this plus symbol. It will be, so in this section we cannot use this plus symbol. So whenever we are adding in the architecture and when we run that architecture, so I will show you how to dynamically fetch the data and how we can dynamically add rows at runtime. So here in this page just I am showing only how to use the properties in a repeating layout. So in the coming sessions, so we will see how to fetch the data from the database and how to call those records dynamically. So now, so further there is a long procedure is there. We have to create an activity and we have to call that in this particular property. So we have to configure this property. So all those things. So once completion of activities topic, we will do all those things. So right now I am only showing how to use the manual properties and embedded properties in the section and Flowaction. Same way, similarly I will use the repeating column also. So how to use the repeating column in the using embedded properties. Click on OK. For this also it is showing a message like list or group name is unspecified. Similar to the repeating row, go to layout properties. First of all we should specify the list name, emp details. So this is the property or property, this is the list name. Select and close. Now so column means, so we'll get the properties one after another. So in a vertical order we'll get the properties. Repeating row means in a horizontal order we'll get the properties. And see, and whenever we are using the properties in a repeating column, in the first row we should not add any properties. So in the first row, because we are having some default symbols like delete symbol and plus symbol, whenever we use the properties in a repeating column we should skip the first row and we have to use this layout from the second row. So don't add any properties in the first row because we are having some predefined symbols out there. So instead of further, skip the first row and try to use it from the second row. Now just same way, select the property and drag and drop here. In this we cannot add manual properties, only we can use embedded properties only. So like this, so we'll get, when we add at runtime we can dynamically add column or delete a column. So for the repeating row we can dynamically add rows and delete rows. So those things we will do in the coming sessions. So this is how, so all the once the properties are created, so their designing will be done in the, so we have to drag the properties in the section, and then for every section we used to add a separate Flowaction for that, and there are so many controls will be there. And one more thing is I want to say is, see, after saving any rule, again if you want to modify that particular rule, so here also there is a check-in and checkout option will be there. Check-in and checkout. See, when you first time, if you are saving any rule, by default it will go to the check-in mode, and further if you want to modify that particular rule, then you have to click on checkout option. That option is available here, see here. So let's suppose, so this is a section, right, and once after saving the section it is showing a read only, so it is showing only read only. Suppose now if you want to delete anything, you cannot delete here because it is in check-in mode. So this is the check-in and checkout button, so this arrow is there, right? So this is the check-in and checkout. If it is showing to the right side means, so it is in the check-in mode. Now so in check-in mode, it will be only read only, and the save icon is also, save icon will be in disable mode. It means we cannot do any modifications when the rule is in check-in mode. If you want to do the modifications means, then we have to click on the checkout button. So checkout means, so click on this arrow, so there is, it will show the checkout, then save icon will get enabled. Now if you want to do any modifications, now we can do. Suppose if you want to delete any row, or if you want to add any property, new property, or delete any property, so all the modifications we can do only in the checkout mode. In the check-in mode we cannot do any modifications. So whenever you want to perform, so suppose if you are unable to do the modifications means, it means that rule is in check-in mode. Later we have to click on the checkout button, and then we can do the modifications so it applies to all the rules, not only this section, any rule. So any rule under this class category. So for example, I will open one property. See here. So for the first name, see by default it will be in the check-in mode. So the save icon is disabled here. Suppose if you want to change any data type or if you want to modify this property, compulsory we need to click on checkout button. Later, so in real time, so after again performing the changes, again they will click on the check-in button and they will give some description, what are the changes they have done. So all the changes they will enter in the description, and what are the changes done for this rule, all these changes will be saved in the history. For example, so after again checking out and again checking, we can check all the all the modifications in the history tab. See, now go to the history details will be there. So what is the first initial creation and when it is modified, so this is the latest modification. Suppose if you want to revert back to the initial creation or anything, so like this, so we can change it from the history tab. So that one we'll see in the coming session. So normally it will maintain the total history of what are the changes at what time the modifications are done for that particular rule. So all that will be maintained in the history. Okay, whenever you want to revert back to that particular initial creation or second time changes, so we can do it from the history tab. So for that there is a separate topic is there, I will tell you. So like that, not only for every rule we'll have this check-in and checkout option. So if you are unable to do any modifications, means then we can understand that it is in check-in mode. If you want to do anything modification, then click on checkout option, then we can do the modifications to that page. So that is the basic thing. So for every rule, this check-in and checkout rule will be applied. So not only for property or section or Flowaction, every rule whatever we are creating under this class, for all these rules the check-in and checkout rule applies. Okay, one more thing is, so in the section itself, not only these things, again we'll have so many options will be there. For example, suppose if I want to set for any field, I want to set as a mandatory field. So normally we used to, whenever we are filling any forms, we used to get the mandatory fields or required fields. So if you want to set that option, so click on the field properties. So for example, first name is there, so go to this field properties, go to general tab. So here we have an option called required option, so just check mark that thing. So here we'll get a mandatory field, so required field, so just to close that option. Similarly we can set for other fields. So whenever there is a requirement, if you want to set any field as a required field, just we have to check that option, and some fields will be there, read only fields, all those things also we can set. So again, suppose not only these options, so many options will be there. So when we go to the field properties, again there is a control is there, right? So go to control. So when we open this configure control, so there are so many changes we can do this field. So I will show you in a pictorial way. Instead of this, you can easily understand. So in the Pega logo user interface UI gallery, so in the pictorial format it will be there here. So for what data type, what are the changes we can do. For example, if our data type is text input or text, so these are the different options we can do. So editing options like, so basic field, so this is what we set required field. So character length, so how many characters we can add, and tooltip, so when we place our cursor, so here we can see some message, so that is called as tooltip. And width of this text input box, so we can change the width, and setting the style, so like background colors, borders, so all this setting the style we can do. So font changes, background colors, so many things are there. I will show you. And read only options means, so suppose when end user enter any text, it must apply in the either left side or right side or anything. So read only means it will not get any text input box. By default it will display the input value. So pre-append means, so middle or left side or right side it will display. Obfuscated means for the password fields, so when we enter any password, if we select obfuscated means it will display in the dot format. So like setting the hover, so when we select, so it will highlight that thing. See here, it will, whenever we place the pointer, the color will be highlighted. Next is smart info. If you want to add any message like that, when we click on that particular value, it will open a box, pop-up box, and it will give some information. So like this, so we can set for a, if we take a text input, so these are the different types of controls we can add. And for example, if we take integer, so for example by default it will display like this. So whenever we enter any value or anything, so by default it will display like this. So later, suppose if you want to change the format to different formats, so decimal places, so how many decimal places? 3 decimal places, percentage, scale, thousand, million, customize symbols without separators, so all this we can add. So these are general, and some other options like negative numbers, currencies. So not only this, in real time we'll have some more options. So in all the, what are the currencies available in the world, all the types we'll have. So like this, for a number we can add this many type of options. So for example buttons, so many styles will be there. Based on our requirement we can add the button standard styles, simple styles, colors, so all those things we can set. Links, so link formats, how we can add a link, so how to categorize that link, different styles of the links, all those things. And different formats of icons, so we can also import them, customize them. And if we take date time, so how many different formats, so these are all the different formats. So date first, time, month first, like this. So different formats will be there. So we can, by default it will display in this format. Later if you want to update, so these are the different styles available. So if you want to, by default it will display calendar. So instead of calendar, so again in the calendar also there are so many formats will be there. So like text area, if we take, so text area means, so by default this is the standard size. Suppose if you want to customize the size of the text area box, so again these are all the different styles. So collapse, expand, so other styles also we can add. So like this, so for a based on the property type here, we can, once after dragging the property into the user interface, again we can change the control based on our requirement. So like this it comes based on the data types. So for that, whenever you want to change those controls, so that option is available here. So just to go to the field properties, in that control properties, so in the control we have to again click on this configure. What are the, so from here we can change what are the controls we have seen there, all the controls we can, so specifying customize things, placeholders, if you want to add a tooltip, so formats, text, so how to obfuscate it, so all those things, so based on the date, time formats. So not only this, so behavior also will be there. So in the behavior, so when we enter any data, so here also we used to have some event options, on change, focus, hover, keyboard. So means, for example, when we click on change, what action it should perform. So it should refresh the data or save the data or run any other data. so when condition, so like this. So all the so many options will be there, so we will do in the coming sessions. So this is about the user interface, where we can do a lot of things here. So if you want to set the styles or anything, so we have an option called in style editing. So when we go to the inline style editing, we can change the font family, font size, font style, font weight, alignment, so color, background, border with style. So like this, so many options we'll get. So based on the requirement, we can do all the things. So basic editing and everything will be done in the Pega itself. Okay. So in the coming sessions we will apply some more examples on this. And so once in the next session, after the, so in the user interface there is one more rule is there, that is harness. So this harness will be covered in the later sessions. So because if you want to cover the harness, means we need to complete the activities. So don't worry. So this topic will be covered in the coming sessions. So right now we are not discussing about this harness rule. It will be covered after the activities rule. So along with the validation. So this rule will be covered along with the, at the time of validations I will also cover the harness rule. Okay, in tomorrow's session I will discuss about the process rule. So under the process we'll have again so many options will be there. Mainly tomorrow's session we wish to cover the flow diagrams. So under the process category we are covering the flow diagrams. Okay, today I will send. So within 2 to 3 hours I will share this thing. Okay. Any doubts in today's session? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Sujit, tell me. Okay. Minimum basic requirements are it's a Windows 7, any 64-bit or anything. So it must be 64-bit actually, and minimum 2 GB RAM, 2 GB RAM or 4 GB RAM, and in the C drive make sure that you are having around 20 GB free space. Yes, you have to, it will not work in the 32-bit, so you have to use 64-bit. Okay. Okay, thank you. Now tomorrow's session, at the starting of the session, if you have any doubts you can ask. So regarding the installation also.